Hello and welcome to the Killgerm podcast. Bit of a different podcast to usual this time because I'm not sat in a room with a guest. Instead I'm sat in my own kitchen and I have a guest on the other end of a phone call. This time, through the power of technology, I have Gareth Scatchard with me for a chat about flyDetect. Gareth from Sheffield City Council and is one of the select few people to have been given the chance to trial flyDetect. Now, for those of you listening who aren't aware of flyDetect or what it is, it's been dubbed by PestWest the future of fly control. It allows you to monitor sensitive areas for flying insects. It comes with an app that you can use on the web or on a smartphone with a permanent 24/7 remote monitoring system. It has a built-in wide-angle camera, and that camera captures an image of the entire sticky board that you can then view through the app. It saves you time and money through allowing daily remote monitoring where you can set your own threshold for a number of insects, and you can plan your visits following a simple alert system on the app, red, amber or green, red being the most urgent sites to visit. It also allows the viewing of additional data such as ambient temperature and humidity, and you can manage all your sites and technicians in the same place. So Gareth, how many flyDetect traps do you actually have in use?
So at the moment we have two flyDetect units set in two different areas under different circumstances. This allowed us to a wider test zone, and this allowed then obviously to get better results and understand the capabilities of the actual unit.
So you mentioned that you've got two different traps there, and where are they?
Right, so the first flyDetect unit was placed in an industrial food production area. Now this food production area makes all the meals for two hospitals. The second one we established in a roof void, just to get a different circumstance where the humidity might be different, the temperature different, and also a different variety of, obviously, insect life.
Right, yeah, of course. How long have you had the traps?
The traps were implemented on the 11th of 2nd, 20, and we had the production design engineer, Andrew, and also the product developer, Mark from Killgerm, come and help us obviously establish and set up the app on our iPads.
Yeah, so how did you find the app? Is that easy to use? Is it difficult, complex?
Yeah, we were sent a link and then obviously activated the link, saved it, and the app is really user-friendly.
Right.
So without any training, straight away, it's really quickly self-taught. Another benefit to the app is obviously the colour coding. Now, the app is tremendous for that. Instead of having to have a lot of reading, it's quite clear, depending on obviously what trigger points the units hit, which means to a technician, it's really quick to flick through your different units, check the status, and check that they're still functioning well. It's obviously got the Google imaging pictures, so you can actually, locate where the fly units are. So if you've got numerous sites, you'll have lots of little icons saying where these fly units are actually fitted. Right.
So you've had flyDetect on trial now for just short of 2 months. Why did you choose to take that on?
Right, well, yeah, the reason I personally wanted to trial them was obviously for my personal kind of like interest. I do love trialing new products where I can and being involved with that side, but also it gave us a chance to work alongside obviously Killgerm Chemicals and PestWest in their personal development of these products for the pest control industry. And the best part of it really for me was it allowed me to put my own opinion of the product forward, leading to me being able to put ideas that may help with future developments of the actual product itself.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's all well and good us sitting and developing it in an office, but in the real world it still has to work, and that's why having it on trial with people like yourselves is so important.
Yeah, because obviously we're the ones who are the end users. We have to make sure it's suitable for our clients, it's suitable, it's easy to use for our operatives, and at the end of the day, we don't want something coming to the market that we may not feel that's suitable for our industry. And there has been examples of that in the past, and the pest control technicians have said, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And all of a sudden, a new product's on the market, and it's exactly what's being requested on training courses at Killgerm, where you're sitting alongside another 20 professional pest controllers, and they're giving really good ideas, which helps Killgerm give them what they want.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you give and take, don't you? There's a little bit, you need that input, as I say, to sort of get the things right and suitable. So, like I say, you've had it for just short of 2 months now, and do you think that there's a place in the market for it, or this kind of remote monitoring?
Oh yes, it's a unique piece of equipment, and like the remote rodent monitoring, first it came to market and it was quite a unique toy. You know, only certain companies could either afford it or had the time to invest in the product. And now remote monitoring is accessible for most companies if required by the client. So I believe this unit will have a specific point, and maybe at the beginning it will be for the high-end clients, where zero tolerance of flying insects and other pest species is not accepted. But hopefully, in future development from PestWest, it may bring where the product is more accessible to the general industry and serves a great commodity like the remote rodent monitoring.
Yeah, of course. So what do you see as the advantages then of flyDetect in comparison to other conventional traps?
Yeah, so the advantages I found was obviously straight away the 24/7 visual of the unit. This allowed, obviously, in our where we've had them fitted, early identification of your severe pest infestations, ones that would go unnoticed. We're not at these sites every day to be able to obviously identify increases in flies. So this remote monitoring allowed us to do that, and in theory gave us a one over on the client, so we could inform the client that they were experiencing an increase in flies. So that was a real benefit. The another one was obviously it tells you when it needs a service. So like modern cars tell you when it's serviced and the MOT is due, this fly unit does the same. So you know straight away, I need to get back to that site. It's either hit a trigger point or it's requiring a board change or a tube change. So it does the thinking for you, which obviously we're all busy in the industry and little things like that can slip our mind. So having something that tells you when it's actually due is an excellent piece of kit. Obviously, the actual look of the fly unit, I hate going into businesses and seeing rusty old fly control units hanging above food surfaces. This unit looks discreet, it's slick, it looks professional. So for any auditor or anybody in the business can stand there and say, that is a really impressive piece of equipment, like we look at our computers.
Yeah, of course. Like you just mentioned then about you're going into places and there's a rusty old fly unit. I think it's sending the wrong message when it's all... Ultimately, it's all about public health and hygiene, especially in food manufacturing and hospitals and things like that. But like you say, if you've got a unit that looks good, looks discreet and professional, I think, psychologically, I think that does wonders.
Yeah, and also, it puts us ahead of the game. At the end of the day, the rodent boxes we've placed, monitoring traps, the fly units, that's how we show our work.
Yeah.
That's how we show us being a professional organisation. And that's what this unit does. It looks good, which means our work must be good, and it's that professional image that this unit gives to companies.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how often have you actually been going to the traps?
So at the moment, obviously, myself has got it loaded up on my tablet, and one of my operatives have as well. And we visually remote monitoring it every day. We have had a period where there was an increase, only a slight increase, but it was good to kind of follow the process. So I downloaded the PDF of the glue board, identified the fly species, and then was able to obviously send the image to the hospital. And they then implemented further hygiene practices, and no chemical treatment was needed. But if that had been in reverse and I hadn't got that, it may have led to obviously the client ringing me saying, we have a fly problem. Yeah. And I wouldn't have been able to identify it over the phone, which means I wouldn't have been able to get the hygiene in place. And I wouldn't have been able to organise a treatment over the phone because, again, the other factors wouldn't have been done. So that's where it has come in useful. But we haven't actually hit any trigger points. Maybe I've set the trigger points a little bit high because you can set it at 0 to 50, 50 to 100, and so on. And maybe due to it being really a clean environment, with maybe the trigger point should have been 0 to 50 rather than 50 to 100. But that's obviously down to individual sites and what their expectations of flies in the property are accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So would you say it helps to save time then?
Yeah, it does, yeah, because obviously if the client phoned and said, I have got a fly problem, it would require a technician to physically go to site, look at the fly problem, then get the client to do the hygiene and the proofing and the storage, and then implement maybe an insecticidal treatment, because obviously it's pointless doing insecticidal treatment if the hygiene's not being improved, because it may just reoccur. So being able to identify the fly even before you go to site allows you as a professional pest controller to get the ball rolling with hygiene and other things that the client can already do prior to you arriving on site. So yeah, it does save time.
So in times like this, where, the very weird times around coronavirus and everything, has this kind of remote monitoring helped where outside visits are kept to a minimum? And is it reassuring knowing that you can check the amount of insects at any time, really, with minimal human interaction?
Yeah. During this time, it's a great bit of kit, to be honest. It's allowed us to keep ahead of what's happening on the site, even though we aren't physically allowed in the premise at the moment due to obviously the coronavirus outbreak. And it's the same obviously with the remote rodent monitoring and things like that. It does put you one step ahead of the game, where sites are refusing access to pest controllers unless there's an immediate threat to public health. We can still deliver a service in this time and respond under the right risk assessments and safe working practices if required. So yeah, it has played a part obviously during the coronavirus outbreak.
So let's say a sudden infestation occurs then. Does having that set alert threshold add a sense of security? You know that you'll be alerted, and it must remove that element of doubt and the what if factor.
Yeah, to me, we are able to provide a great service because if you only carry out monthly visits, if you go and there's a sudden increase of 300-400 flies, you are suddenly behind. This system allows us to pick it up and we can see it go from 1 to 5 to 10. And at that point, we can assess whether we need to do a site visit, which is brilliant for the client because the client then can say, well, I've not noticed a fly increase, and you can be ahead of the game before it gets to an infestation, which makes you look like a professional company.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can deliver a service that other pest control companies can't deliver because they can, if they go every day, it's labour, it's costs, and the client doesn't want to pay for that. But this system allows you to spend seconds a day just quickly looking at a glue board and saying, that site's safe. And if it isn't safe, you can provide the great service, like I've explained, and get things going before it gets to the level of an infestation, which could threaten public health and potentially lead to closure of businesses.
So, PestWest have dubbed this the future of fly control. But do you think remote monitoring is the way forward for all kinds of pests? You've mentioned rodent already.
Yes, so I believe as technology develops, the pest control industry must also develop.
Yeah.
A lot of companies already produce electronic report inspections. Many are starting to implement the electronic rodent monitoring, and these are becoming further developed every month. But I find the biggest cost to most businesses is labour, and therefore if time can be saved using technology within the pest control industry, then it allows those companies to focus on other duties like bird proofing, maybe public health duties in local authorities. But alongside technology, we still need highly experienced pest control carrying out inspections for proofing, environmental factors, hygiene, evidence of pests, and, in the end, professional treatments when required. But technology and professional operatives together will make the industry more successful in early identification and the overall management of pest species.
So, final question then for you, Gareth. Would you recommend flyDetect to other pest controllers, and would you use it yourself in the future?
So, for the first bit, Eden, yeah, I would highly recommend it. I would even if you don't think you might use it, speak to Killgerm or PestWest and ask about the benefits of the product. Find out about where it could be used, because in every pest controller's portfolio of commercial contracts, this will play a part, and that may be at the moment in the food industry and the high-end market, but there's no reason why this couldn't be implemented in a cafe or a restaurant it's allowing that remote monitoring. It's allowing the customer has the choice of having this piece of equipment. So, yeah, I would use it, and I would highly recommend, even if you don't think you're going to use it, find out about it and give it a go.
Yeah, I think you've got to try and be ahead of the curve, really, haven't you? Because, you know, if you don't do it, then someone else is gonna, and for all you know, they could end up taking your work.
Yeah, that's the result. You know, I really didn't like the electronic monitoring system for rodents when I first read about it. I thought, not sure about this, but now I've understood it and I've learned how to use it correctly. I see a big part of me thinking that in the next 2 or 3 years will be, hopefully, on some of my more high-risk sites. And hopefully some of these fly units maybe as well.
Right, well, I'll let you go, Gareth. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your call.
No, thank you very much, Eden. It's been a pleasure, obviously, trialling the product for Killgerm and PestWest. So thank you very, very much.
Cheers.
Cheers, bye.
Now, all breakfast meetings, workshops and training events have been postponed by Killgerm for the foreseeable future. The plan is to have those rearranged to a later date, but with the ever-changing situation at the minute, it's impossible to say when that'll be. Now, for your basis prompt CPD points, the code you'll need for this episode of the Killgerm podcast is GS-FD-0420. That's GS-FD-0420. For full instructions on how to claim the CPD points for both basis prompts and the BPCA, head to either of the first two Killgerm podcasts where I explain in full. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.